Rhapsody, they say, get out of the room with the servers. Every time you're here,
Mm.
everything goes down.
I think we're live. I wanted to give you a proper introduction,
We'll go.
and this is so raw and real, you know. Okay, let me get into the mode. I'm frantic because my computer's there. I'm using the iPhone. We might get cut off. Here's the situation. The beautiful Jaan Uhelszki right here, founding editor. You're founding editor, would you say, of Creem? Would you say that?
I would say that I was a founding subscription kid. I
This,
went in the back door,
the
and
back door.
I worked my way up. I had to strategize and headbutt my entrance into Cream. They did not hire me as a writer because I was like 17 years old, and it was like, yeah, what have you written? No, I had to
Really?
yeah, I had to get there by convincing them that I should get there. I should be there. So, uh, founding like employee,
So
and then editor.
so what would be the best introduction? Like how would you want it to be? Like you're on a show,
Yeah.
but you're going to interview you.
No,
How would you
no.
introduce you
I
if you didn't know you?
That's like when you go to a hair cutter and you say, "How would you cut my hair if it was you?" It's like no, or
Like that, like this.
yeah.
Chalk and wax.
But
So I don't know. It's like I'd say I'm a pioneering female rock critic because there were hardly any when I started. Because
yeah,
we were inventing rock criticism, and women weren't really, offered the job. And when you were a woman in that job or that vocation, no one took you seriously because then there were only two categories, like band girlfriends,
yeah.
groupies, and publicists through categories. So I was none of those. I just always wanted to be a reporter. And
So
yeah,
who were the influence of yours back then?
I love Nick Cohen. I used to read. No, probably nobody who's watching this knows about I Magazine, but it was an 11 issue, oversized magazine where John Landau wrote for it, and Janet Maslin and Michael Thomas and Nick Cohen. And I found it on the newsstand and I devoured it. I go, oh my God, that's what I want to be. And I was in 11th grade.
Mm.
And I thought, okay, this is my job. This is what I'll be. So I really just one day decided this is what I was going to be. I mean, I wanted to be an astronomer before that. So it was a big leap. So,
Really, that's a big
yeah,
leap. That's pretty
yeah.
cool. So it wasn't easy in the beginning to do this as a profession. It wasn't an easy ride to get in, like to Cream for it to get through, right?
Actually, it was really easy because they were paying $22.75 a week. So it was more egalitarian because anybody who was willing to write for free
Hmm.
and to actually go out there and put themselves in the line of fire, it was more guerrilla journalism. You didn't have a publicist who set up an interview with you and Jeff Beck. You had to go to the venue, hang around backstage, and have your notepad because nobody even used tape recorders then,
Yeah, right. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So it was really just gutsy. Like everybody who worked at Cream had huge personalities. And I think for me, it was just, I just wouldn't give up. Even though I don't have a giant sized personality like Lester Bangs or Dave Marsh, um, I was just determined to do this and I would take anything. So people ask me how I became the Kiss editor.
Mm.
Nobody else wanted to be the Kiss editor. I became the Kiss editor. So I just said yes to everything. Like I thought, okay, I'll do that. No problem. I'll write about Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Yeah.
I got the bottom of the heap for a while, which really wasn't the bottom of the heap. They just weren't cool. But I'm from the Midwest. I get that meat and potatoes music that where the rest of the country is more like Detroiters than they are, say, someone from LA or someone from London or someone from New York. So I honestly found this niche of just taking rejects.
That's funny. But you say Kiss, you were the only, I think, I think you were like the first people on stage with Kiss.
I was the only journalist who's ever been on stage with them. I think that they brought Elton John up once, and then they brought up that little obnoxious actress who did the Pepsi commercials.
Who was that? Which one was that?
Oh my God, I don't remember her name. She was about 7 years old. She was like a kid midget, I swear. And she did that
Oh yeah,
Pepsi commercial.
yeah.
And I remember writing a piece about it saying, they told me I was going to be the only one that they were ever going to bring on stage with them. I mean, I got them early. I got them like at first album.
I know.
And I decided to put them in Cream, and nobody wanted me to put them in Cream. Everyone else hated them. Like they used to call them like New York Doll clones or like cartoon rock stars, even before when they were menacing looking, when they were like much more evil. And I just persisted. I just knew that they were an idea whose time had come. And I just had to get on that. And nobody wanted it anyway. So I did a Kiss Comics, and then I did like a couple of record reviews. And then I built up to, having that story where I decided I would go on stage with them.
That's
like
pretty cool.
I decided, it's like they didn't decide. I went there and they didn't even know what I was talking about. Like their record company said, sure, you can cover them. You can get on stage with them and perform. And I went to the sound check and none of them knew I was talking about. They thought I was out of my mind. Like they just thought, they didn't even listen until I like put on black clothes. It was it was a really surreal situation. And I've only figured out in recent times that despite that there were 5,000 people in that audience, I had never heard from anybody who was there. It's almost like a staged moonwalk. Like I could have made the whole thing up and nobody would have known.
Right.
Because no one has ever mentioned it. Only in passing, only after I wrote the story.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty legendary because fans can't get, they want more stories that they haven't heard, later on it comes out. So that story's like, it's a big story now.
Yeah, it's like
it really is.
I knew it was really a huge story even then. Is the Braille Musician's Guide. I mean, who even knew that there was one that existed? Got in touch with me and wanted to reprint it in Braille, and I thought, okay, that's really cool. But now blind kids will get to know because it's really descriptive. I talk about everything about how they were fighting and how they were mad that one of them was making me up to look like him, and they're back and forth. And it was definitely behind the scenes kind of story.
It's so legendary. I mean, Jan, you have an incredible story, and I met you because you came on here before. We're talking with you had a documentary of Creem, which was great. I came across a record because I was interviewing Mike Campbell. For everybody watching, legendary Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers founding member. He has a great new band, the Dirty Knobs. So I went on a hunt for this record, and the record was not easy to find. But this record itself, besides the great rock and roll, when we talk about guitar, my favorites, it's definitely Chuck Berry. There was a movie called Let the Good Times Roll that he was in it with Little Richard, Danny and the Juniors. I bought the album, but he wasn't on the record. I was so bummed. I'll never forget that. But it's a great album anyway. But like Mike, his influence, Chuck Berry, Keith Richards, and those are my favorite type of guitar players. Not too technical, just the coolness, the ooze, their swagger in that piece of that guitar. That it's just a piece of wood and strings, and they just make it connected to their bodies. That's cool.
Yeah.
This guy is the same way. So I'm going through this record. First of all, I see the record album. It's Klaus Voormann.
Yeah. How cooler does it get than that?
Right.
Really, the Beatles like guy. It's like, the scenester, like part connected him with that pre-British invasion kind of like mentality. That's credibility.
Klaus was there for everybody who doesn't know, which but from the Hamburg, Stu Sutcliffe, he was friends with Astrid, who was Stu Sutcliffe's girlfriend, who gave the Beatles their haircut. Now we get Beatle talk here.
Yeah, right.
But Klaus also was the artist for the Revolver album cover, also bass player for Manfred Mann, played bass for John Lennon, the Carly Simon, You're Sylvain, legendary. But he did this, which was, I didn't know he's still active.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So
I think he's 80, right?
He's like 80 years old. And it's pretty incredible. If you look at this, you got Mike right there. You got his hat flying over there. What a great... So I'm going through this, and it's an open gate. Look at that. It's really nice. Then I'm reading back here. This is like old school legendary. There's a story about the Dirty Knobs. And when I open up and I'm reading the liner notes, whose name do I see? in the liner notes, you. I'm like, oh my God.
And it was supposed to be old school. They called me up because they wanted me to do the liner notes, like the back of the first Rolling Stone record when Andrew Loog Oldham had done them, just really compact, small, just with a lot of pop and trying to mimic the music. So I did that. I mean, I just like listened to old Rolling Stone albums to get into that mood because I couldn't find the one they were talking about. I think there's maybe a Mike Bloomfield album that also had liner notes like that. So I did it really old school because it fit the mood of the album, because it's not totally influenced by the 60s, but you can actually see a lot of his influences. I mean, there's 70 influences too, but there's this danger in this music that was in the same, like on Satanic's Majesty's Request, or any of that really early stuff we love, Jimi Hendrix. There's really some kind of metaphysics at work on this album.
It really does. I mean, and your liner notes really fit well with this record, because when I'm listening to the record, I'm reading this. It reminded me of even the Beatles, Meet the Beatles. When you read the liner notes, you know, Lennon 23, whatever, they're saying the whole story about them. This is great. I mean, the songs on here itself, which hit me, the one that hit me, I Still Love You. It hit me out the gate. It comes out powerful. That was my favorite track on the record. It was real, just a real touching. Now, everybody out there watching, we were talking about this. I did the interview with Mike, and I was nervous. And he's the quietest guy, the shyest guy, the most humble guy. I gave him a compliment, and I said, Mike, it's just, you know exactly what to play. Everything is always the right notes, the right, just, you know, the right parts to put in there. Never too much, just always right. Oh, and he's being all shy, and I'm thinking to myself, what did I do? Did I just offend him? You know? So he had me, because he's so nice, I was so nervous, and I wasn't myself on the interview, which, everybody, you'll be able to watch, because I'm going to play it after this. It's going to go right into the Mike Campbell interview.
Most of the ones I had when I was a kid have been lost through the years. Some of them I've rebought. But yeah, I have quite a lot of vinyl. I have a closet that I have them all in. They used to be in alphabetical order, but they're all screwed up now.
How about how did you meet Mike? What's the story on that?
Well, I mean, I met him years ago because I've been covering Tom Petty's band for ages. My husband had Berserkly Records, and Greg Kinband used to open up for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So I met him years and years ago, which neither of us really remember. And then when I really spent a lot of time with them is during the Mudcrutch story, and Tom Petty was about an hour and a half late, so I spent an hour and a half in a hotel suite with the Mudcrutch, and we were just talking because we're close in age, and we read the same magazines, we listened to the same records, and we really got along. And then I interviewed him for classic rock, and our minds worked really well together until I was doing a story on Jeff Lynne, and I was interviewing him for that, and he thought I was asking like aggressive questions or ones that was kind of dissing Jeff Lynne, and I had to go, no, I come in peace. I actually just really need to know some backstory here, make him come alive. And he got a little huffy, and I was shocked because other times he'd been so nice, and I thought, okay, I'll just write it off, you know. And then about 6 months later, I should preface this with, he is my absolute favorite American guitar player. He's the American George Harrison. I mean, lyrical, beautiful, plays the melody, never a wasted note. All those things they talk about in guitar world are really true. He put so many hours into getting this tone. He sounds like himself. It's like one of those things, like you hear Jeff Beck, you know it's Jeff Beck. You hear Mike Campbell, you know it's Mike Campbell. So I was a little upset when he was like taking me to task about Jeff, but it was really honorable too, because he was defending his friend. And I honestly, I'm a little bratty, but I wasn't doing that. But they called me about 6 months later as manager and asked me if I wanted to do his bio. And I go, are you sure? Did you call the right person? I don't really think that the last time we talked was amazing. And they go, no, he wants you to do the liner notes. So, the bio. So about 3 weeks later, the manager calls me and said, well, would you mind making them liner notes? And I go, no, what do you want? And then that's the story I already said, where he wanted it just like the Stones' first album.
Wow.
And like Mike Bloomfield. And that's a little earlier than me being, I certainly wasn't a professional then. I was a crazy fan, but I spent so much time. Those are like 500 little words. And I probably spent 2 weeks coming up with the right 500 words for Mike.
That is so funny. That's so, I mean, you made it. Your name is right here, right over here. They put you right there. It's funny you said that because like, I knew so much about this. I was so excited to get Mike on the show. I go, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one. And my friend who hooked me up with him is Sharon Solani, who's Stevie Nicks' backup singer, who she's on all those records from Belladonna to plays in Fleetwood Mac. So she recommended, I'm like, oh my God. This is going to be the best one. And I totally turned into Ralph Crandon, the $1 Million. Remember the show, hum, the hum, the hum, the hum?
Yeah.
It's hysterical. Mike threw out in the interview, he goes, well, I had a 45-minute interview scheduled with him. I cut it down to maybe under 30. Well, my chicken died. I'm like, oh, are you a vegetarian? Right
no.
into that. You know?
Wow.
But the interview is a great interview. Everybody will get to see it. He's a lovely guy. We talked about vinyl. I didn't bring up any of the Tom Petty things. I wanted to talk about this because the only thing I did mention for people who don't know, and if you don't know, which everybody probably does know, Boys of Summer he wrote, like big songs, which was a throwaway song from the Heartbreakers, I think.
Yeah, well, actually, Tom didn't want it. I just remember this from the Wayback Machine, but I think it was Jimmy Irvine, who I'm sure I'm massacring his name. Mike played it for him. I just remember this from an interview I had, and Jimmy thought it was too jazzy, and Tom passed on it. So Jimmy called up Mike a little while later, and he goes, still got that song? John Henley's looking for songs. So he gave it to him. And I think later Tom, lived to regret it because it was such a good song. He's amazing. Here's a secret. There's so many secrets about him. I mean, I eventually got along with them. I mean, I got along with them well. It was just I was so daunted when he was like being a little prickly. But he writes a song a day. He writes every single day. So he's been writing for years that way. So he's really good with songs. He's really good with words. So, I mean, you see that because, he had a different job. In Tom Petty, it was a different role, but he actually really easily stepped into this role as a songwriter. I mean, there's a specificity and detail in all these songs that just was like mind-blowing to me. But I mean, he writes like a poet.
It's funny you said that. And on the record itself, it has this great sheet over here, and he really does write like a poet. And some of the songs, because I was talking to his drummer Matt Locke, he goes, some of the songs that get so deep to him, he doesn't want to do them live. I go, really?
Oh wow.
He'll get real personal. Did you know that about Mike?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Some songs he won't, and it's like he won't tell you a lot about. He's almost what you just said, George Harrison, like the quiet Beatle. He has that personality, but then he's funny. Like you watch his Instagram, he's very funny and humorous. But Mike did say that, like the song, for example, like he was happy with Pistol Packin' Mama featuring Chris Stapleton. He goes, he's a real singer. I go, no, Mike, you got the heart and soul. And he just has that thing about him,
because he's singing from the inside out. Almost
can't be imitated. There's something you can't imitate that you just can't. Either you have it or you don't. It's a fabulous record. You got to be really proud that you got to do this. This is big. This is cool.
I just really believe in him. I mean, he is the same kind of fan that I was, and our Samir, like the people you like, really mirror who you are inside. And as a critic, I want to be the way he is as a guitarist. He's just amazing, and a big surprise because for all those years he kept his light under a bushel somewhat. And it's like you can't believe that he's doing all the singing. And I think the thing that kept coming up too is that he does sound similar to Tom, but the thing is he's a different kind of stylist. It's like he's not a singer. He is much more. It's like he's talking. It's really in his own voice. Like, what's the one where is it fuck this Fuck this guy. That's a really interesting persona. It's almost like an actor doing a role, but it feels so authentically him. His hidden talent.
It's guys like him, Bob Dylan, and when you say poet, Dylan, it's basically really a poet with a guitar. But I Still Love You. I still want to know what the song's about, because like when I asked the drummer Matlock, well, because that's a real touchy song for him. It's a real deep song. I mean, the words. Don't say it's too late. Don't say it's over now, because it doesn't matter anyway, anyhow. I tried so hard to work it out. I mean, but it's just an intense song. I mean, I keep going back to the song because it grabbed me, and the album is really good. Irish Girl, which I went to him. I go, Irish Girl remind me of early Stones. I was thinking Brian Jones era. He goes, no. He goes, I was in my car, and that one he was listening to them, Van Morrison, and them.
Oh, it's so Van Morrison. It reminds me of Van Morrison more than anybody.
Yeah.
I think it was channeled too, because I think he told me when we were doing the song by song that he doesn't even know what those words like red sable, let you and your leather and your lace and red sable like. You know what that reminds me of? This is going to sound really crazy, but it's like it reminds me of After the Gold Rush, where Neil Young transports you to medieval times and talks about kings and queens. And if you read the words, Mike does the same thing. It's like, I swear he's in a different time in that one. Time. That's my favorite song on the album, Irish Girl.
Yeah, that's your favorite one. That's one of my favorites. I Still Love You, right? I keep going because it hit me right away. It was a big intro, and I'm like, wow. Yeah. I thought it was going to get heavier, and I'm like, oh.
What also, too, is like that raga psychedelic beginning of like Reckless Abandon.
Yes.
I also love that he said, in my transcript I noticed where he said, well, that just means like driving without accidents. But it's also like damn the torpedoes. So they put a lot of thought into the song titles, and or he did, because I think he really has he has complete autonomy in this band. I think at another point in the interview he said what Jason Sine, his guitar player, has now got his job because he supports what Mike plays, what Mike sings, and the thing is it's as seamless as when Mike is in the Heartbreakers and he supports the songs. Like that's back to the no wasted notes. He's just really, he's playing songs that connect the vocal, the choruses. And I think that Jason does the same thing.
Yeah. No, the band is an excellent band. I actually would see the band play in the Valley when Tom was still alive, because this was really, people probably don't know, the diehards know, this was actually, a side thing for him to go, when he was not doing Tom. And they would do a lot of Beatles songs, a lot of rare Beatles songs they would do, like really cool. They did, I think they did a cover of I Saw Them Play She Said, I think it might have been. And it was just so great. I mean, such a great band. This record came out in 2020. It's not a new record. Unfortunately, with COVID and everything, I feel like they couldn't tour it and but it's a hidden gem. It really is.
Oh yeah, even Bob Lefkowitz in his letter like praised it, and he doesn't like anything, and it's one of those making music like they used to kind of compliments that he made, and it's really that way. It's dangerous, it's edgy, and it goes through a different personas. It's like the two acoustic. I mean, I like the girl songs. I like Anna Lee, and I like
Anna Lee, yes,
yeah, and I don't know. My favorite really isn't the I Still Love You. I find it really tragic. I mean, it's a happy ending. The one thing he insists on, I remember too, is he insists on that there's hope at the end of all the songs. So as dire that they all look, if you listen to them really closely, you find that there is redemption, that it's all going to be okay. I think if there's a theme in this whole record, it's all going to be okay.
I think so. Well, he did say in the interview, it's a religious experience. You got to hear it on vinyl. He has a copy of it on vinyl himself, and And then I go, what about 8-tracks? So they're making a comeback. He goes, I don't think 8-tracks are, but we talked about cassettes, but it is a beautiful package. The artwork is great. I mean, you're a piece of the history now with Klaus Vorman. Did you know when you were writing this that Klaus was going to do the art on this?
I did.
You did
I did.
know.
Yeah, wait, there's a lot of pressure to be really good in these liner notes. There's a really high bar.
I mean, so when you knew he was going to do this, then you probably made I gotta rewrite what I wrote now. I gotta make it better.
Oh no, I wrote it like lyrics. I wrote
Yeah.
like every word had to mean something. And I had to scan it well. I'm a little obsessive about my writing anyway, but this was, and plus he is my favorite American guitar player. I'm kind of embarrassed I'm saying this so publicly, but he really is. I mean, I always listen to sing. I always like that little psychedelic thing, and plus the fact I like Florida. I have this strange obsession with Florida bands my whole life. So.
I mean, wonderful. This was a wonderful, and I'm glad you got to talk with me on here, even though we had a little. The internet gods weren't with me today, but we made this happen. We kept it raw. We kept it real. We kept it rock and roll. This was good. This was a lot of good. I think, Jan, you need to come on and talk more about some vinyl with me. You're good with this. You're a professional. Yeah, I love it.
I am a professional. I do this at home.
That's right. So you kids out there trying to do this, take it from a professional here. Don't try this at home. Okay.
Yeah. No, try this at home. We need more of you. It's like a fading art, rock criticism.
It is a fading art, but people like him, people like you keep it alive still. And it's teaching other people. When you first going back, when you met Mike and then you interviewed Tom Petty, what was Tom? What was he like?
You know what Tom was like? He was the missing link between the rock gods on Valhalla and the rest of us. He made you feel like you could do it too, whatever your thing was.
Yeah.
He was easy to talk to. He was a little temperamental sometimes. I remember one time spending the day with him in his house in Malibu, and when I was a kid, they used to have these dolls with little knobs at the top of their heads, not dirty knobs, but little knobs, and you would turn it, and there would be a new expression. And Tom was very mercurial, like he would change moods. He'd be the best hang in the world, and then he'd get really serious, and then he'd be just the best hang in the world. So you just didn't know it was coming up. I liked him enormously, again, because I think they're my age group, and we went through so many similar things with the youth quake and the whole hippie thing and hippie going to the 70s. So I felt a real kinship with both of them. I do.
Yeah. Everything on this record too. He says he's a child of the 60s. That's exactly what Mike said to me, and it's all on this record. And he does a really nice dedication to Tom on here, which is really. When I'm saying that to you right now, this album's dedicated to my co-captain, Tom. I get chills. Just kept it simple.
Oh, you know what's really interesting? I did the track by track for that whole Wildflowers package last year. And I interviewed everybody who was involved with it. And what really struck me is Tom's really not gone. Like everyone I interviewed spoke of Tom in the present tense. That there's no was, he was. It's like... It's like he's still here.
He's still here.
On some level, he's still here.
He's still here. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Even looking at this, they had the section with Tom Petty. So then you have it all there. I found a vinyl store, and I went on some journey looking for this. But man, it's out there. You could order it. But I just wanted to support those local small mom and pop record stores. They're having a hard time. I want to try to keep it alive. Just old school, going to a record store, looking at a magazine like what you used to write with, having it in your hand. There's something, it's a lost art. Look at me. I'm like the old commercial from New York. Crazy Eddie, our prices can't be beat. They're insane. You know what? But it's wonderful that you're here and you got to talk with me. I'm glad you made time today.
All right, thank you. I had a great time.
No, thank you.
Okay, sorry about the spoon bending.
You know what? We're going to do it again.
Okay.
YouTube, thank you, and we will see you later.
All righty, Mike Campbell, the Dirty Knobs, thank you for being here, my friend. And
thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Goodbye.
It's coffee talk with ADIKA. Nothing rhymes with that but chicken tikka. We name drop here. Stephen and all his friends.
Oh, you guys got me right there. I'm just reading my friend's. Oh, Susan, you're here too. I just happen to be reading your book. I want to show everybody out there in the world. Please, everybody, please check it out. I will put all the good descriptions right there. But that's our friend Susan. And before we go, thank you guys. But click up there, click over here, up there, there, and remember. Subscribe, share, love one another, and always be steepling. Right, Dr. G? Always steeple, huh, Dr. G? That's right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.